The 2024 Paris Musketeers, even more hyped than last year. Of course, last year they had an absolute gauntlet, kind of fell short a little bit when it came to some of those tougher games. They've reloaded, that's for sure. This has probably been the most requested one so far for me to do, and they've just announced all their guys. So here is the 2024 import tier list for the Paris Musketeers. If you don't know how we do this, I have a bunch of tier list videos in the playlist, which I'll link in the description. The basic role is we have all-star, starter, role player, bench player, questions remain, and all of them will fit somewhere in that range. ELFpedia has a great ranking of where we were at so far, so go and make sure to follow them on all their socials and to show love on their page, because ELFpedia do amazing things, and I always link them in the descriptions of the newer videos, because I use a lot of their stats, and I use a lot of their roster stuff to help me fill out my notes, which I have on my other screen, and my stats, which I have half on the other screen. So if you do see me looking back and forth, I'm probably reading numbers or I'm reading some of my notes on these players. Some of these players don't have a bunch of film, but I do what I can. You know, I think some people will give opinions. I'm not saying some of the fans that have messaged me disagreeing with some of my takes don't watch the tape, but I will try and watch at least 2 games of all the guys that I can. If I can't watch tape, I'll read the scout reports. So if they're trying to go to the NFL, I'll read their combine numbers, and I'll just collect everything I can. My scout reports are built up of their name, their socials, whether or not they're IPP eligible, nationality, additional citizenships, position, jersey number, team this year, team last year, age, height, weight, their combine numbers, the grade that I've given them, any of their awards, and their specification grade, so like shorthand for how they're built athletically, a link to the highlights, a link to their stats, and then just some notes, and then the event testing of how they got those combat numbers. So it's very in-depth. So if people want to have a look at those, I would be willing to put some of that out. I think quite a lot of it is on my Twitter. But I'm rambling on for too long. I've been rambling on for too long. You came here for the Paris team. Let's talk about the Paris team. We're going to talk about my British friend, Toby Letman, one of the best offensive linemen in the continent. He spent the last couple of years with the Austrian teams, with the Raiders, and also with Vienna. He played 20 games in total across those 2 seasons with the team. And then he went to Canada for a while. Now he's back with Paris. He's a guard, he can play tackle. I think he's naturally a tackle, which makes sense. He's so big. He's listed at 6'6", 300 pounds. Big fucking dude. Has a crazy amount of length and super active hands on the grapple reset as well. Like, if people he'll stunt the first move, they'll try and make a second move. And his hand placement and his hand movement, his hand quickness is honestly one of the most elite in Europe. Some of his footwork, I think, could use a bit more sharpening up. So he's more of a forward guy. He doesn't get as much depth of his pass protection from what I've seen. And at times, against the Surge, he got hit a couple times with push pull and a couple of rip moves. So he isn't a perfect offensive lineman, but who is? He's definitely one of the top 5 offensive linemen in Europe. I don't think that's much of a question. You know, he spent time in the ELF, has been a star, has went to the Canadian Football League, so he obviously is one of the best ones. Going to be an all-star, at least, you know, in that conversation. I think that he hasn't finished a full season with the Raiders last year, which I think kind of stopped him being in that all-star discussion, but for me, Toby is very clearly an all-star level player. Next to him, fellow British compadre once again, Lewis Thomas. Lewis Thomas is undersized at guard, only being listed at 6'2", 287 pounds as per the ELF website. But he's a 2-time all-star, and he's one of the best run-blocking guards in Europe. Lewis Thomas is severely underrated. I know it sounds funny to say a 2-time ELF all-star is underrated. People don't talk about Lewis as they should. Like, Lewis is spectacular. Lewis is, like I said, a little bit undersized, but because of that kind of shorter stature, he can just hit and rip and just clamps for hands, honestly. I've seen him in person play. He's a phenomenal player. And, you know, obviously the length is a factor, so he has limited punch separation, but it's less of an impact when it comes to being inside. So I think that he's going to be, and I think the 2 of the teams that he's been with, not last year with the Milan team, but the last 2 teams with the Hamburg and whoever he was at before Hamburg, I can't remember. I think both of those teams led the league in rushing yards. So he clearly has an impact on the rushing game. He's a solid pass protector as well, but for me, it's another all-star selection, or at least in the conversation for all-star, but likely going to be all-star. Okay, Jordan Genmark-Heath, big blockbuster signing. You know, former UCLA and Notre Dame standout. He didn't play too much in Notre Dame. You know, only started 2 games in his few years there, but he was appearing in a bunch of them. Then he went to UCLA, had a breakout season, got drafted to the CFL Global, spent a bit of time with the Philadelphia Stars, one of a couple players who actually play over there, which is quite interesting. Phenomenal athlete. obviously he's a D1 athlete, he's going to be phenomenal. And then I didn't realize how phenomenal he actually is. 4.6740, that's faster than Marcelo Beard. 21 reps of the bench press, that's more than most people. 36.5-inch vertical, which is just insane at a person of his size and muscularity. 4.25 shuttle, that's faster than Chandler Jones at Louisville, who we'll get to in a minute. One of the best athletes that's going to be on the field this year. He does have injuries. He had his season cut short last season by injuries. That's the big red flag, of course. Limited playtime over the last few years with being in the Global, with the Saskatchewan. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs for a little bit, but didn't see the field. And then, of course, had injuries with the Philadelphia Stars after only a short while. So can Jordan come onto the field and make a difference? It's a big thing. Linebacker is a competitive market, but for me, we're 3 for 3. We're 3 for 3. If he can use athleticism, an inside or outside linebacker, or even safety, like he started his career in American football at safety, he's just phenomenal. I can't wait to see Jordan back on the field. I've been one of the players that I've watched for a really long time and been so excited to see when he comes to Europe, and I'm getting it now. And he's also with some of the best French talent. I think that gets lost a lot with people saying that they're, an underrated or overrated team. It's just how fucking phenomenal some of that French talent really is. Like, that gets lost. So even if they didn't have an American receiver, you've got Anthony Mohamu, who's one of the best receivers in Europe, full stop. You've got Florian Rose, who I made a video about, I'll link in the description. You've got Americ Lecoult, you've got Remy Bertolon, you've got fucking good players, and they added Thomas Felicia, of course, and they added just a bunch of guys in the defense. They've already got Amir Kalani, they've got Deacon Gomez, they've got just such incredible depth as a French team that these guys are just the cherries on top. And to have three All-Stars so far, obviously they're not all going to be All-Star players, as we'll get to in a minute, but can't complain. Maybe poor timing on my part. They can't all be All-Stars. Let's talk about another All-Star that's probably going to be another All-Star. Asan Zberg is one of the best interior defensive linemen in Europe. Another Swede, 6 foot tall, so a little bit undersized, 287 pounds as per ELF. Spent some time with Leipzig for a few seasons, and obviously was with the Surge when they folded, but 2-time All-Star, 26 years old. The big thing on him, I think, is his lack of... I don't think he's the most powerful rusher. He's a finesse inside guy, which is rare, and I like it, don't get me wrong, but has a great pad level, has a really nice swim move. But when he gets hit with an elite strength player, sometimes he can struggle to get off of that. Same with double teams. Of course, it's a double team, it's very hard to get off of. However, Asan, I wouldn't say, is in the elite category for strength in terms of interior defensive lineman. Having said that, the finesse that he shows is brilliant. He does have decent bursts when it comes off the line as well. So I think for me, he's going to be in another All-Star discussion. Paris fans are going to love this one. So let's just put him in there. That's 4 for 4 so far. You can't really bash it, right? You got 2 Swedes, 2 Brits, 2 of the most elite. Elite offensive tackle, elite offensive guard, elite linebacker, elite defensive tackle. They built this team up to win. Winning or going home is the motive for the Paris Musketeers. If they don't win with this team, I don't know what to do. Someone said on the Raiders one as well about, I didn't mention the home ground or the coaching or the other players, which, no, this is about the imports. This isn't about the rest of it. I probably will just talk about other ones. I'm a scout. I do obviously care about the coaching and stuff like that and where they play and the systems and whatnot, so I do look into that too. But I'm more necessarily just talking about the players, and I think that they are. That's what I find more fun out of. So let's get into our next one, Poli's Sacramento. I've done a whole video on some of my favourite Brazilians, and Poli was one of them. So I'm not going to go into too much depth on him at the moment. Go and watch my video that I'll link in the description. He's fast on line of scrimmage, he has good drive, maybe his punch separation is not elite. He kind of leans heavy on the defensive line and hasn't got the best redirect. But please go and watch that video. For me, Poli is going to be a starter level player. That doesn't mean that he's not a good player, of course. I think he's excellent. I think he starts over the majority of players at right tackle. He played a lot of right tackle last year for the team. Really showed out. I didn't realise how good. I knew Poli was good. I got into the tape and realised just how good he is. So Poli is going to be a starter. Could honestly edge into being an all-star offensive lineman. I really wouldn't be surprised. He's played over 20 games in the ELF now, so he's very well accustomed. He can play inside, he can play outside. I think one of the description from, if I remember correctly, from one of the people I talked to within the organisation, is that he's one of the most athletic and best offensive linemen to play the position in the entire league, which is crazy high praise. But go watch that video if you want a full explanation. Respectfully, I'm not going to talk about it too much because I want you to go watch the video. So Polly, for me, starter. Jack Lau is quite an interesting one for me. He's listed at 6'5", 245 pounds, Australian defensive end. Huge guy. I think that he should move in to be a 3-tech. And I say that because he has good length, he has pretty decent hands, he's good on twists and stunts. Does not have much of a rush bag. Only got 1.5 sacks last year in 12 games, which is obviously not great for a situational defensive end. Quite inactive when he gets hit and doesn't really have a second move. You know, he's inexperienced. He hasn't been playing football for very long. Jack obviously has the athletic ability, but for me, I wouldn't put him in the elite caliber of rushers. You know, 1.5 sacks at defensive end is not, you know, it's not what you would desire. However, they put their faith in him. Could see a big jump in him this year when he's able to get more accustomed to it. But for now, I'm going to put Jack into the role player category. Dawson Dales next up. A player that I actually was not a massive fan of. I'm going to be real. During the season, I thought Dawson was not overrated, but I was a bit like, you know, he's good, but I wouldn't say that he's first team all-star. And then I looked into a bit more of the tape and realized what people were saying. You know, he's a bit undersized, listed various times at various different heights, but probably about 5'9", 5'10". He's listed at 5'11" and 6 foot in other places, but high foot like you can really just tell that from the football tape that he knows how to play football. He's directing people, he's following people, his eyes are constantly moving around, and I love that. He's a great tackler. You know, not perfect tackler, but he is a great tackler, gets good leverage. Footwork is clean, very clean. But it's weird because it doesn't have that much speed. So that sounds silly to say, but he has such, so I call it pitter-patter feet, where you can just hear the, I'm not sure if you can hear that on the mic, but just a 1, 2, 3, and it's gone. Pitter-patter feet. And I love that. It's my favorite thing I look for in linebackers. But does he have the pitter-patter feet where it's, no. But he has good footwork, but it's just not the burstiest out of breaks. That's what I'm trying to say. But Dawson Dale, to me, one of the best interior linebackers. He was first team all-star last season. I was proved wrong by going back into the tape and looking at Dawson in more depth. And I'm excited that I actually got to do that. So that's a good thing about this, is I get look into players that I have maybe misconceptions about and then talk about it a little bit more. So for me, Dawson could be in another discussion for the all-star teams. Chandler Jones next. Not the Raiders Chandler Jones, but Louisville Chandler Jones. DB, played at Louisville for 5 years from 2018 to 2022. I probably wouldn't have in my most elite DBs. You know, 4.71 in his pro day. Had 14 bench though, so he is strong. He's aggressive. He has a 30-inch vertical as well. Very aggressive at the catch point. Very active hands. Just limited playtime at Louisville, and maybe not the fastest of players. I think it's going to hold him back as a player when it comes to facing some of the elite competition. Not saying that he can, but I'm just saying that he might. That's what I think could be a thing. You know, he played at corner in his freshman year, kind of moved a little bit around from safety to corner to nickel. I think it's going to be important for him in Paris to be able to move around. DB, of course, is a massive need, and with that conference, it's just fucking unreal. So to have him would be a big player. I think that he starts over quite a few other guys, so I'm probably going to put him as a starter level player, because corner is such, or DB in general, there is wild talent everywhere, so it's going to be very hard to narrow that down to 4 guys. But for me, I think that he's kind of just on the outside of that top 5 discussion. Austin Mitchell, one of the favorite receivers last year to watch in the GFL. So fucking fast, like so fast. Out of his breaks on the routes when he gets the ball in his hands. Austin Mitchell with speed, 1 to 100, go. That's what he is. He was first in the GFL for yards, 1,627. He was first for yards per game with 135.6. You know, he missed a few games because of injuries. He only played 12. But he had 20 touchdowns. The fuck? He's going to play in the slot. I imagine they're going to have Anthony at X. They're going to have him at Y. And then they're going to have Florian at Z. That's terrifying. And with Zach, who we'll get to in a second, with his quicker offense that he needs, with he's more like a freestyle offense, and how he breaks out of pocket and how he will look for players at the end of their routes, likes to get the ball out a little bit quicker. Austin's going to be a fucking star for that. Like, he fits into this offense superbly. Very excited to see where he comes out. It's a tough one though. Do I go for all-star? Do I go for starter? Because he of course starts over most people. He's shown that he can do it at GFL level. But there is an incredible amount of talent on every team. And there is also an incredible amount of talent on Paris. So is he going to get as much of the ball as some of these all-stars? I don't think so. So I'm going to put him as a starter. But hear me out. Austin Mitchell is absolutely all-star level potential. No doubt. But when you've got Antti Mahonwu and Florian LaRose and Nicole and and Remy Bertolon and a good run game, boy, is that hard to like even that distribution. So he's going to be a star player who kind of has lower stats. But for me, Austin Mitchell, I'm going to put him up here. I'll probably move this around there. Austin Mitchell could easily be an all-star if they choose to go after him. And I think that he's going to be fucking really good. Like, I am so excited to see Austin Mitchell with that ball in his hands. He's so rapid, has a really good route diversity. His cuts are sharp, his routes are sharp. You know, the knock on him, if I'm being nitpicky, is size. You know, he got injured a little bit. He's 5'9", 180, so you could argue a little bit smaller, but he's going to be in the slot. But does he have the durability and the bulk to come inside and take some of these linebackers on? Not so sure. Blocking-wise, also not great. But when you have other blockers outside, they're going to be fine. I think they're not really going to use him with blocking downs. They're probably going to take him out during that and use him for speed, which is what he is. Kind of think Woody Patterson. I think it's the kind of comparison I would bring to him would be Woody Patterson. Someone who's just rapid, can get the ball, make something happen, excellent punt and kick returns. And it's going to be a very exciting player to watch. Last but not least, Zach Edwards. If you watch at your left, you know who Zach Edwards is. You know what his game is. He's a mobile guy with a good arm. He can hit intermediate and short routes well. Sometimes the decision making could be a little bit boring. Kind of gets a little bit twitchy in the pocket and scrambles a little bit early. Sometimes kind of goes into pressure. But Zach is a phenomenal quarterback. Can he win a championship? I think that he can win a championship. He's been an offensive player of the year contender, an MVP contender in the past when he was at Barcelona. Last year, kind of struggled with the offensive line, so he wasn't really able to get into a fluid motion. This year, there is no excuse. He has a bevy of all-star selection players that could be there. He has multiple weapons he can go to. He has a defense that's going to get the ball in his hands. No question. This is not a make or break year for Zach, of course. Like, he is a phenomenal quarterback. It's just this is a year where he has to elevate his game and become what we all know that he can be. Like, he's going to be great. All-star. Right? Makes sense. So yeah, this team's fucking stacked. The surprise, the Paris team is really, really good. You know, people have been asking about this one for a while. Let me have a little look. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 34, 38, 42. So it's like a 45. So I think this is like up with the surge. I think the Ryan Fire were like 46. I think the surge like 47. So this is probably just below the Ryan Fire and the surge, which I think is fair. You know, I think that's reasonable. But Paris is going to be title contenders. I think they're better than Frankfurt. I know that some people are going to despise that, but I do think they're better than Frankfurt. Ryan, I'm not so sure if they're better than Ryan. Are they better than Surge? Yeah, maybe. Probably. I think they probably are better than Surge. I think that Surge have like the more stacked imports, but I think that the French team doesn't have the same problem with the German teams of national players. They get all the national players. How many players? Let me quickly check. How many French players I have written down and not playing for the Musketeers. So out of the players that aren't playing for the Paris Musketeers are French. You've got Teddy Adelaide, who's just left the Enthroners, oddly. You've got Louis Etienne, who is French. You've got Pascali at running back. You've got Kev Fortes. You've got Maximin Defalsis. You've got Wael Nazari. You've got Celio Saul, Tony Anderson, and Nicolas Cantar. So they are missing a few guys. I do think some of the guys would improve that team, but, you know, that's still to have the majority of elite talent of the country is a massive bonus. I think Paris are really going to take advantage of this year. That's my list. Let me know how much you hate it. Let me know how much you love it as well. This is going to be... Who else I got next? I can't think who I haven't done. But yeah, there's a whole playlist down below. I'll put it in the description. You can kind of look at, see who I have done, see who I haven't done. This has been a blast. Also, like, I was watching ELF1. This is probably just me going on a tangent. Like, I love Silas, brother, but 3 All-Stars? It's like sleeper picks? I'm not so sure about that one. Like, Tommy wasn't, I don't think Tommy was a sleeper. Tommy was the best running back in the league. Ken Hike's the best corner in the league. Marvin Rouge was an All-Star, but I guess you could say he's still a sleeper. But I might do another sleeper. I've done a few, like, sleeper player, like, picks, and I'll probably do another one of just, like, I don't want to do Braga at Dresden, Niels Jonkman, the Eagles. It's like near Stuttgart. I know he just finished a trial with Stuttgart, but he was a player that I sent to a few German teams. I was like, you want to take a look at this guy? He's someone I would like to do on a gem series or something like that. So yeah, I think that'd be cool. So this was Paris. Stacked team. I think they're going to go a couple wins. I think they're going to beat Frankfurt maybe twice, honestly. like with the additions. I think I made that Frankfurt video a while back where I thought that they were going to kind of split games. I don't think they're going to split games anymore. I'm all in on Paris Musketeers, man. I think they're phenomenal. So that'll do us with this one. A long intro. My apologies. I'm going to go into filming this one a little bit, looking at my different screens and enjoying the setup. And I'm in a good mood today, so I hope you guys all are as well. Thank you for watching. See you later. Thank you, and